What is going on, everybody? It is your resident Delco Dork, Gabe here, and I am with...
Chris P, the Dork-in-Chief.
And...
Bax, a sometimes occasional guest, and the abbot to his Costello in real life.
Yes, very much so. Crispy, I had an idea that I had threw your way, and it's great because we've got two Uber geeks here who've known about this for decades, and you with a fresh set of eyes. And I thought with James Gunn's Superman movie right around the corner, I thought it'd be a great topic for us to discuss what maybe is the second best Superman movie?
What would you say is the first one, the original?
1978.
Okay.
But I'm referring to the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2 that was released on video in 2006 during the hype of Superman Returns.
Yeah, so, my background, I love superhero movies, and I had seen the first two Superman movies way back. I actually don't even think I probably saw the first Superman movie all the way through.
Breaking my heart.
But I just had never gotten around to it. So actually it was yesterday in preparation for this video. I watched the original Superman. I watched the original cut of Superman 2. And then I watched the Donner cut until it started skipping with the DVD you gave me.
I've owned this movie 4 times and 3 of them have been messed up. Frank, you still have my copy.
I brought my Blu-ray, which is sitting back here somewhere.
Physical media, my ass.
And I bought it on HD DVD the day it came out in 2006. If you remember that dead format, I'm sure that wouldn't work anymore because those Warner's
You bought
discs.
Superman Returns on that too, didn't you?
Yes. And those Warner's discs were notoriously shoddy from that time, and some of the regular DVDs.
So I spent a lot of time with Superman yesterday.
I'm really glad I brought this idea up for you because there's a lot of reasons.
I am
One,
too.
You're a filmmaker, and I think you like the idea even if it doesn't work out sometimes where the studio F's you up the ass.
And he has been planning this for like 4 months.
Yeah, the production behind Superman is a long, tedious process. 18 months. Donner worked his ass off. But I think you're really keen on that because you're a filmmaker and you want to hear those stories. But also, this was the proto-Snyder cut.
Yeah, that's right. Because, this was the first time that had ever been done on a large scale. And I believe Donner cut was very successful for its time, whereas I think Snyder cut was not, right? As far
I
as
think the Donner cut won a Saturn Award.
The streaming numbers of the Snyder cut were pretty high. And actually, there was, a couple years prior to this, there were the 2 Exorcist prequels where we got both versions.
That's true.
Right away, and that was
yes.
rare.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time with Superman, and I obviously I know a bit of the lore and the big players and everything. It was very cool for me to kind of go back and see like this was the start of superhero movies. I'm sure there were some before, like you have kind of like your 30s and 40s serials, but this was like the first legit superhero motion picture.
The Salkinds did the John Hammond.
Spared no expense.
In a lot of ways, the films still really hold up.
Well,
and I think it's something I noticed with them is that I could see the influence they had on much later films in the genre, like such as like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
The first Thor was very Superman 78.
That's true.
This was a thing that I think people knew about because certain aspects of his movie was bleeding out in the TV cuts back in the day.
Yeah, people knew there were 2 versions around. And let me just say, I'm going to let him do most of the talking since he's been really excited about this. Again, he's been telling me for like 4 months we're going to film this. I also hope this doesn't break the illusion. It's July 5th. I don't know when we're seeing this online, but it's 4 months, I think, that he's been, since the last video, he's been talking about this. But when this came out, I thought for years I was the crazy one because everybody was telling me how Superman 2 was their favorite, was the best one. Now, I love Superman, and I grew up with these movies, but I always thought that a lot of Superman 2 just didn't work, and it leaned too much into the comedy, and Richard Lester just wasn't the right director. Like, I love his Beatles movies and those 3 Musketeers movies where he does action comedy well. For years, everybody's telling me, like, oh, Superman 2 is their favorite, but there was just so much I didn't like about it, and then when the Donner cut came out, I bought it the day it came out. I was so excited to watch it. Everything I didn't like about the original cut was gone. All of the ugly matte shots and the ugly color grading and set design, all of that stuff, all of the silly comedic stuff and the cellophane S, which you love and we're going to talk about.
What was that? Yeah, take that, you jerk. That was a minor inconvenience. Yeah, well, that's the idea. Slowed you down, I'll say.
Like, just about everything that I didn't like, I'm like, wow, it wasn't in the original vision. And that explains why this movie was just so half-baked for me. And even though I get why the general concept was popular, like Superman fighting a superpowered villain, which he didn't get to do in the first one.
Gives up his powers for Lois.
Yeah, everything about the second movie in the Donner cut was just so much better. And for the past 19 years, that's been the one that I will preach. That's the true version.
Watching the Donner cut, I was like, wait, they fired this guy?
They said he went over budget and schedules. Like, I didn't get a budget or schedule.
Yeah.
The first one was a massive hit. You let him.
But it was really just interesting to me watching the Lester cut, the original cut, and then watching the Donner cut and seeing like different scenes that Lester reshot, you know, like, so
that was
ugly.
Well, you know the story about that, right? So Lester had to reshoot enough to where percentage-wise it was his movie.
Right.
Because Donner said he didn't want to share credit. So they reshoot the whole opening now, essentially, where like Superman has to save Lois in Paris, and it's not that good.
Like, I felt kind of weird. Like, I get that you kind of want to start on like an action piece, but it didn't work for me. I really liked the pacing was so much better in the Donner cut.
That's it.
Okay, to be fair, I don't think the Donner cut is perfect. I thought it was.
We're gonna talk about the ending. I think that's where you're gonna
well,
go.
We'll talk about that. But I thought it was more. Thought it was a little less believable that Lois jumps out of the skyscraper than she does like fall off into the
Niagara Falls.
The Niagara
rapids,
Falls.
yeah.
But I liked its placement. I mean, it's the same thing essentially. They just changed the location. But I like that it kind of builds up to his reveal as Superman rather than it just kind of happens all at once.
Donner cut.
In the Lester
Lois is more of the journalist that she is,
Yeah.
and she's just sillier in the Lester cut.
Like her plans to discover Superman in the Donner cut are a lot more clever.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, and she catches
And
on
that's
pretty
Lois.
early on in the Donner cut, as opposed like it kind of drags out a little bit. The Donner cut, when we talk about the fire versus the gun scene with the Donner cut is just so much better reveal. There's so much more tension. I just think a much more interesting scene than, ooh, I tripped and I landed in fire.
You tripped over Booster from freaking Jingle All the Way.
You know what? Nobody likes you, Booster.
Like, listen, whatever you think about the color itself, pink to me is a better accent color. That room is garish as shit. And Superman intentionally trips over this damn thing to throw his hand in the fire. No, I'm not buying that for a second.
The
That's
design
stupid.
of almost everything in the Lester cut, though, is just uglier. And there's this one, that matte shot of Lex and Otis in the balloon, and it just looks like someone pissed on it. It's such an ugly shot. Like, I know you had the budget in 1980 to make that not look this bad.
You had enough money to go to Paris to
Yeah.
shoot a whole new opening.
A lot of it has to do with just color grading. A lot of the Lester shots are in that, like, Vaseline vision. It just...
Vaseline
I
vision.
didn't like it.
Well, that's another thing, too. They lost their DP after the first movie. He died. That was the guy who shot 2001. Then the tragedy of the production designer in the first movie went on to work on Empire, and then he had a heart attack. So that's like... Donner's cut looks so much cleaner. And
It
nicer.
does. And not just because...
I don't
we
want to use
watched
the
it-
term ethereal glow.
It's not just because it was cleaned up for a video release 19 years ago either. It's just his original vision, it looked better.
Now, I'm surprised you didn't find the second round of Lois trying to figure out Clark's identity. They're in the hotel room for the honeymoon racket. You know that's test footage, right?
Wait, the thing with the gun is test footage?
That's test footage. That was like
Wig.
audition test footage with
Yeah.
Reeve and Kidder.
He's
Wow.
wearing a wig.
You could also tell, like, there's different shots where his hair's different and the glasses, but also, like, he's discernibly thinner.
There were a couple scenes where I thought his hair looked a little weird, but
That's a wig.
it wasn't. I was going to ask you guys what was the test footage. I know that they used some test footage.
That's it.
I don't know, it was it, but it still works better than the other cut.
Does.
Yeah.
And Zod with the machine gun is one of my favorite scenes of Zod. He's
That's
so much
so
more
cool.
threatening
He's
in
such
the
a
Donner
badass.
cut, where he's just like gleefully mowing down soldiers. That's just such a more threatening villain look for him.
You know what's... Yeah, and they try to make this... it's more extended in the Lester cut where they're... I'm assuming they're actually, ironically, in Houston and they're just wrecking the small town. There should be tension there. But
Houston.
the comedy downplays it, and I hate it.
Well,
Yeah, there's
like,
too
you know,
much.
Ursa goes and wins an arm wrestling contest.
Nun's doing the thing where his laser eyes don't work.
James Gunn just said, I think this week, in something I read, that the new movie is more like a modern Superman 2. Gee, I hope he means this cut. Now, I know Gunn is known for the quippy, funny Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. I'm tired of quips in everything. I liked when movies were straightforward to maybe 80% of the movie. I hope it's not too quippy. I don't like where everything has to be a wink and a nod and a smirk. Superman 1
I'm
had a little
I'm
comedy.
hoping people aren't thinking that this is like, you know, it's more adult themed like the Snyder cut. I think it's catering more to families.
And that's good. Like, Superman 1 still has some comedic moments, but I'm tired of everything trying to be funny. Like, I miss earnestness and straightforward.
If anybody can do this right, I think it's James
Yeah,
Gunn.
I don't want to sound like I don't have faith in him to pull this off.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not too funny.
Sure.
Because Marvel movies ruined everything with every third line had to be a little quippy throwaway joke.
So let's talk about tonal disconnect, like you say, like things that just keep taking you out. All right. one of the biggest things. Okay, there's two. Say what I will about the guy, because I think he's a dick, and it's been a known thing. I will say, and thankfully, I don't want to say thankfully, but he passed.
Brando?
Yeah, Brando passed. And now, because...
He's like, thank God that guy's dead and I can talk about it. Because he was really going to tune in and watch this. Billy Zane might watch
This
it.
was his favorite show.
Yeah, and Billy Zane's really method, and he is.
I'm gonna get an angry freaking
Yeah.
comment from the estate. No, so the estate said, okay, use footage of Brando. It really helps tie the Donner cut better, where he's like arguing with Jor-el over like the concept of I love
scenes,
Lois. There is that weird shot, by the way, and I guess they kept it in because they thought it was funny or weird. So I guess Jor-el's conscious of this must know that there's certain things that Kal-El will do in his life. But, like, when he's talking about it, giving up his powers for Lois is standing up there watching it, and Jor-el gives her the side eye. I'm like, does he know that she's there?
Human woman, yeah.
But yeah, like, he's a known dick, but he really helps the movie better. Other than that crappy effect in the Fortress with his mom and the like, no, that shit looks shit.
Wasn't he an AI at that point? I'd always assumed everything that was programmed in the ship. He's then an AI with, like, anything that he might say. But it's not like... Son, if you're watching this, I'm dead. Don't give up your powers for a woman. I thought he was an AI at that point.
I think it's kind of both. I think it's partial recording, it's partial AI.
Yeah.
Brando's stuff is amazing. I mean, I think he really kind of ties it all together.
Yeah, it does need him.
There was more at stake, I think, with Superman giving up his powers, because now my understanding was he wasn't going to be able to communicate with Jor-el anymore, right?
Farewell forever, Kal-El.
If he gave up his powers.
Well, in the Lester cut, it's more like ambiguous. It's just like, well, thank God the green crystal's okay. And I guess it's like, well, just restored the powers. We're good. All the power that's harnessed, I'm assuming, in the fortress and the crystal recharged Superman. And that's when Reeve talks about that story of ripping on Brando. He's like, what was it like working with him? He's like,
yeah. Was it exciting to work with him, though?
Not really, no. No. I had a wonderful time, but the man didn't care. I'm sorry. He just, took the $2 million and ran.
He actually told off Brando when he did that thing. He's like, I gotta, I don't know what it's like to be recharged as a superhero, so I'm going through it. And he's just chuckling away. And far be it from me, a nobody at the time, to step up to Brando and say, I may not know what I'm doing, but at least I'm trying, damn it. And then Brando sent him candy and flowers.
Brando had like his lines like taped to things. Like, yeah, what are we doing? Superman,
when he's reading the baby Kal-El, you can tell he's not making eye contact. He's reading the lines off baby diapers. He's such a lazy
He's actually on baby diapers?
Yeah, they had him on cue cards in the first movie.
Yeah.
Wait, so they didn't have cue cards, they had cue diapers.
They had both.
They were taped to the baby, I think. Just stick one right on his forehead.
We got
it's like the baby's here. Is like,
baby
you will go far.
Is it Kal-El? Kal-El.
Develop such conviction in yourself, El-Al. Kal-El. Ralph, whatever your name is.
God massacred my boy.
Brando called it Krypton.
Yeah, Krypton. That's why I keep going. You hear me if you're going Krypton? Krypton.
Yeah. It's like, did he refuse to say Krypton? Did they
you know what it was? Nobody probably had the balls to stand up to him.
Yeah, no, I think I read something like that. He's like, no, I want to say it this way. Yeah, what's like people in 50s movies, robot.
Well, there's a couple other Kryptonians in the first movie, and Laura pronounced it that way too.
Yeah.
So they're probably just like, fuck
Well,
it.
if you'll notice, the Star Wars movies don't have consistent pronunciation of like Leia and Leia and Chewbacca and Han and Han, like Alderaan. In the movies, the actors are all saying different things. It's like regional accents in space.
I'm going to put it to bed right here.
Yeah.
It's actually pronounced Krypton. Clark gets it wrong because he's been living in Kansas too long.
That's how people in Topeka, they say Krypton.
But yeah, I mean, I think overall, just including Brando, there was much more to lose, and the stakes were much higher.
Yeah.
With him losing his powers.
And especially when they actually get the fight. Lester's got to ruin it with this extended sequence of the Kryptonians blowing people.
What?
Doing what?
What?
And then it's just Brands
doing what?
Blowing people. The super breath, folks.
I know.
Oh, okay.
And then it's just like, it's dumbass gag. Look, that guy's wig came off. This guy's eating ice cream, even though like there's been a threat that Superman can't stop. And they're all just standing there like morons.
I'm going to go to the ice cream vendor. Yeah.
I'm in a payphone, and this conversation's really funny. Oh, the one thing that does make both cuts is the spangly red vest guy on the roller skates going backwards. You ever notice that guy? That's funny. But then they downplay it so much, like, this is the final fight. And then they go back to the fortress and had a dumbass fight with the Cellophaness.
Yes.
So let's talk about that ending.
Which one?
So let's talk about the Donner cut. So this, just as a refresher to the audience, Lester's cut, it resets at the end because Clark kisses Lois and erases her memory. And
Well, I don't want to say it resets. Like, so there's an ending that could have worked for either one in terms of the villains. Bax, I don't think he knows about this. The Arctic Police that show up to arrest Zod, not an
Yes.
So they don't
We're
die in
arresting-
that pit. Like they're not in like Kryptonian
Alien criminals.
carbonite or something.
With the art, like human police show up.
Yeah, they show up to the North Pole, I guess.
Yeah, the Mounties.
What,
Yeah, the
Santa's elves?
Yeah, and they just arrest them all.
We are Santa.
Wait, was that? Did somebody come up with that ending?
That's in the Donner.
that's-
That was deleted from the Donner cut, but it made the Lester cut in TV versions.
Right, I've seen it.
Really?
footage.
Okay.
It's on one of the old DVDs.
It's on the Blu-ray. It's on it's
Yeah.
on the Donner cut DVD.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, Lex is back in prison. The Kryptonians are dead, I guess. So they all still have memories of this. Like Perry, Jimmy, just kisses away Lois, probably gaslighting her into thinking she's going to have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
So Lester cut. That's what happens. But
weird.
Donner cut. So does he kill Lex Luthor? It seems.
Well,
to
the Arctic
imply-
Police picked him up because he blows up the fortress with the Vision, and I guess they don't see Lex coming out of there. So
But he rewinds time.
Yeah, so they do a callback to the first one where he spins around the world and revert, like basically
In the
undoes
original
whole-
script process, while they were filming this, they liked that ending, and it was saved for this originally, but they said put it in the first movie. And then Donner's like, well, I don't really want to know what I want to do for the ending here. We've already shot this. We have some footage, but we don't want to do the kiss because it's stupid. Also, their whole thing is Clark should never kiss Lois. Superman should. That's their whole that's the conceit they went with. So they're like, well, if I could turn back time. So Superman tries.
So
It takes back
I
time
agree
again.
that the memory wiping kiss is stupid,
It is.
but why undo the whole movie?
That's what kills it.
Like that doesn't that was what was like. It kind of reminds me of like the end of Pokemon the first movie where Mewtwo just wipes out everybody's memory at the end.
What transpired here I will always remember. But perhaps for you, these events are best forgotten.
Oh,
which-
yeah. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
But here's the issue. I don't call it time travel. I call it selective time manipulation. Because guess what? I guess the guy that was at the diner still recognizes Clark. And
Well,
Clark
that's-
fixes it.
Exactly. That doesn't make sense.
But it like selective. Then why is he making Perry White brush his teeth backwards then?
They had the footage. But also, how far back are we going? Because Lois is like, Superman takes a break. How much of a break?
But it goes back to before the three of them were.
They show them going back in, which I wish they just didn't include that because it does negate the movie and it kind of sucks. But
Yeah,
Well, it just means everybody that got killed, all the bad stuff didn't happen.
yeah, so
You get
Superman
back to
doesn't
before
feel
that
obligated to
happened.
feel like a
Yeah.
killer.
So anybody that got killed in that conflict.
right, which I
wow.
get. But then why does the guy recognize him?
Yeah,
at the
that doesn't
end
make sense.
At the diner, that kind of bugs me a lot. And
That's why
it's
actually-
a great scene. Don't get me wrong, it's a great scene. But
One of the few things in the Lester cut that I actually like. And maybe you could have found a way around this, did some of the time travel, go back, but kind of like what he did, save Lois and then stop the nuke later. Like you could fix things to where it's not so messy. But actually, I like that bit in the Lester cut where Superman comes back with the top of the dome of the White House.
Sorry I've been away so long. I won't let you down again.
He's like, sorry, Mr. President, I was gone for so long.
yeah,
Trying to get laid, you know the deal.
yeah, no, that's a great.
The only other thing I like in the Lester cut is when Superman gets his powers back and he flies up to the planet when Zod, not an Ursa, are there.
Superman, thank God. I mean, get him!
And the line in Lester's cut's actually better because it's
General? Would you care to step outside?
the Donner cut. It's
General? Haven't you ever heard of freedom of the press?
I will say I appreciated that line, especially nowadays.
well,
I had a newfound appreciation for that, and I think especially watching all these Superman movies on July 4th, I think that felt very fitting.
yeah.
You know, it kind of reminded me that Superman was designed as a figure of hope.
He still is.
You know,
I
he
hope
still
the
is.
movie's good.
And I hope
We
the new
need
one does
Superman.
well. And yes, people still appreciate that. Because I remember even when Superman Returns came out, which was before the Marvel explosion. I mean, there were a lot of Marvel movies at the time, but not the MCU yet. But people were like, oh, Superman, he's so lame, he's one-dimensional. And I always couldn't stand when people said it. Was like, you don't understand Superman if you think he's boring, one-dimensional, and lame. There's a lot more to him. We're like, he's invulnerable. It's boring because nothing can hurt him. I guess you've never seen any one of his movies because kryptonite or magic or really just other beings that are super strong.
Mind over muscle.
Get ready for the Kiss Christopher Reeves ass section. He's just the man, dude. Yeah. He's so genuine. Like, I love a lot of the different portrayals of Superman. I'm not like one of those Cavill haters. I just think he got saddled with some mediocre stuff. He's just the best at blending both. As the kids would say, he is him.
He is
him.
He
predates Robert Downey Jr. or any of those great perfect castings. Christopher Reeve is the guy.
I'm going to jump in as the guy that actually read a lot of comics because he hasn't. But the nerdy Clark Kent comes from that movie. He actually made the Clark Kent that you know today. He wasn't like that before.
Doesn't matter. He's great at it.
Yeah, no, he's perfect.
He's the man.
He's the reason we have the more of the nerdy, bumbling Clark Kent stereotype.
Well, that's also like, I know Zod existed before, but like the movie's really like propelled Zod again.
Well, let me talk about Zod for a minute. Zod had been around for a long time, but the Zod that you know from those movies, that type of Zod hasn't really been in comic book continuity since like 2007. There were other versions of Zod. There was the bald Zod going way back, to the Silver Age, and there was a Zod version that looked like he was like a Russian dictator, and there was the Zod that Superman accidentally killed with. There were 3 Kryptonians. It was Zod and Zara and Quexel was like the non-character. And there's a whole storyline where he does have to kill them, whether accidentally or no, but like he has to kill them because, they're rampaging like in the movies and killing people. And then he feels bad about it and he goes out in space and atones for his crimes. Like even in Man of Steel, I'm like, oh my God, he killed Zod. I'm like, well, he actually has killed Zod in comics before. That's a real thing. But the
technically
Zod
in the Lester cut, he killed Zod.
Right. But the Zod that like movie Zod, they finally brought into continuity like way later. 2007 is when they started to introduce more of the Terrence Stamp version of Zod.
I think that's another thing that annoys you with Superman. You had away from Zod and Lex already.
Well, I just did. Like, he's got... you were like, why is Lex in the new movie? Like, you have to have Lex for any, like, restart of Superman's story, but there's so many other recognizable superpowered villains besides Zod that he can fight on film. Like, we finally got Darkseid in the Snyder Cut, but, like, you could do Imperiex and Ruin and
Brainiac.
Plasmus and Parasite and Brainiac. There's, like, all these other... And not just Doomsday, like, because Doomsday was, like, the 90s extreme villain, created just to kill him. But there's all these other older superpowered villains that Superman could be fighting. And Ruin, he was a newer character. His character was actually in Man of Steel, the doctor that becomes him. He was a good villain. But anyway.
So... those first 2 movies, I mean, I think have been impossible to top, and I think, with like Batman, we have had several definitive Batman actors. Maybe not. There's some better than others, but people accept like, well, this is my Batman, or this is my Spider-Man. Toby's my Spider-Man,
like
or Tom is my Spider-Man. But I feel like with Superman, it always was Christopher Reeve was number 1.
Yeah,
and I could.
I want to see how David Cornsweet does.
I like every actor that's played him to some degree. Like, again, if the movies are not as good, it's not their fault. None of them that I think, oh, that's a bad casting. I liked them all. And actually, David Cornsweet is local. Because I like to tell a story. He's from this area, and he was in some play at People's Light Theater in, like, spring of 2004. And I saw Julius Caesar there at that time, but there was another play running in Rep that he was in when he was a kid. So I didn't see that, but I was in that theater when he was appearing in something because I saw Julius Caesar there.
Oh, by the way, R.I.P. to the late, great Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Oh, man. He's the best live-action films Lex thus far.
Let me talk about Lex for a minute, too. Since when Superman Returns came out, I appreciated that we were following Superman 2 to a degree, but why were we still doing Silver Age Lex? Because Michael Rosenbaum's Lex is at least the closest
very good
to the billionaire, insane villain, genius mastermind that Lex became later in the comics. And the Lex that most people under the age of 40, I'm over 40 obviously, would know is more of like the Rosenbaum style Lex, or Lex from the animated series voiced by Clancy Brown, because Gene Hackman's more of the silly Silver Age, like, I'm the greatest criminal mastermind in the world. That's silly. Lex hasn't been like that in comics for, a good 40 years. Even in Man of Steel in the John Byrne reinvention, he was kind of like that for a little bit, but at least by the 90s, we got to, eventually got up to like the President Lex character. And Lex, I love Gene Hackman, but that's not my Lex. I love Gene Hackman in many other movies.
I will
French Connection.
Shit, I will take that over Jesse Eisenberg any day.
No, yeah, not him. No. But
it was certainly the cheesiest parts of the movie.
Yeah,
but it was entertaining.
He's entertaining, and I love Gene Hackman in a lot of movies. But Clancy Brown on the animated series, that's Lex Luthor, and Michael Rosenbaum. I mean,
Smallville was good.
In fact, I got this shirt the first season of Smallville. Like this shirt's from 2001, and Michael Rosenbaum, he's kind of my live.
Let's see what Nicholas Hoult does.
I wanted Nicholas Hoult, actually, before I even knew who David Cornsweet was. Nicholas Hoult was in the running to be Superman. I'm like, oh, Nicholas Holt's good. He should be Superman. And then when they cast David Cornsweet, I don't know who he was because I've not seen Pearl that he's in.
I haven't either.
So
he's in Twisters as well.
I haven't seen that.
No, I was really glad to see this after all this time and to kind of get into the Superman lore. And I just, like, the first thing I watched when I put the DVD in was I watched Richard Donner's introduction. And I'm like, wow, what an amazing thing that this, as a director, to kind of finally have your vision realized like 30 years later, however many years it was, 25 years later. That's why I prefer to own and cut all of my own work. You just own everything.
No studio interference.
No studio. I mean, it's one of the benefits
of being your own studio.
One of the benefits of being an indie filmmaker is you don't have much money, but you do have all the control. So
there's a lot to be said.
I'm glad he was gratified because fans came together to give that. Listen, say what you will about the ending. They were put in a position. I still think there is people say that there's people who like to do the fan edits of what they like in both versions. They make a super cut to give them whatever ending they want, but like keeping a lot of the Donner footage intact. Still, I'll take this over the theatrical almost any day.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you. Overall, it was better.
It was an exodus of people once Donner got fired. Like the editor left. John Williams was already working on something else. God, I'm so glad that score got. Frank, since you're watching this.
Our friend Frank.
Frank, you're a good friend, and I'm glad you're watching this. Frank Formica, that is. I know you're a musician, and you understand composition and orchestration way more than me. But this is one of the best John Williams scores, and you're a hater, and I won't have it.
Frank's in front of his phone. No!
I will not concede.
We were just talking about this though. It's between Williams' Superman or Elfman's Batman '89 theme,
most iconic
as
superhero.
the most iconic superhero movie theme, and it's down to those two. And I think Superman's is the first. You hear it say Superman. That's just.
I think it good. Barely edges out Elfman's '89 Batman theme. I think, but they're both up there. I was delighted to kind of witness the, for myself in one day, just kind of the birth of the superhero movie genre, essentially the modern superhero movie genre. And so thank you for suggesting this idea for a video.
You browbeat the guy long enough. You'll get what you want.
Yeah. So, are you guys looking forward to the next Superman, the James Gunn Superman?
I'm going with my dad.
Yeah. When are you guys going?
Hope it's got it's a schedule thing. I'm trying to shoot for Thursday.
Aren't I going with the both of you? Weren't all three of us going?
We got to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right in front of the audience. What? We're changing our plans? No.
I'm
seeing on Tuesday. So.
Oh, that's right. Is that an early Amazon thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys let us know in the comments. For you guys who've seen both versions.
All 7 of you.
Yes, all 7 of you. Donner cut or Lester cut. If you've never seen the Donner cut, it's so great to see like what the vision could have been. And I still like if you give me like a 3.5-ish hour version of Superman 78 and the Donner cut back to back, that's the perfect Superman movie for me.
I love it. I think it's the second best solo Superman movie after the first one. It could be a whole nother video. I talk about things I actually like from Batman v Superman, but we won't go into that. And if you want to see more Bax, and we'll take Gabe out of this chair and put him over here, say so in the comments, all 3 of you.
We'll have you guys fight for the chair.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time on Dork Daily.
Do the Superman thing.
Are we doing this?
Yeah.
Haven't you ever heard of freedom of the press?